Welcome to Offshoot, the Fident Capital podcast with host Kevin Choquette. Offshoot is a curiosity-driven conversation that features a wide range of real estate and business professionals. In each episode, we unpack the knowledge, vantage point, and domain expertise of our guests. Then we move beyond the facts and figures and dive into the personal habits and mindset which allow them to be high performers in their respective field. This podcast's objective is simple: supporting entrepreneurs, fostering relationships, and uncovering meaningful conversations that positively impact business.
Welcome, everyone, to part 2 of my conversation with Matt Beaudreau. If you haven't already heard part 1, please go back and give it a listen. We cover a mountain of material on the public education system and the mindset that Apogee employs as an alternative to that one-size-fits-all education paradigm. I hope you enjoy part 2. Welcome back, Matt. Yeah, so look, on the personal side, like, it seems like everything you're doing is actually very personal. But like, do you have this question seems almost odd given everything we just talked about, but do you have something that you think of as a give back? It seems like all that you're doing is a give back to me, but I want to ask the question and just see how it lands for you.
Yeah, I was wondering if you're going to be like, but do you have a life?
Right.
Is there a life? That's fair. I had one of our guys in the Apogee men's program was like, man, what do you do for, fun? I'm like, you guys are fun. Like, this is fun. This is fun to me. Yeah, the give back portion, it is depending on how we want to define that. I am roughly 7 days a week right now with Apogee, and I do, because we are building at such breakneck speed, I know that's not sustainable nor is that efficient. And we're building our team so that I can focus on the things that I need to be able to focus on. And this entire mission does feel like a give back because it is a give back. Any of the money that comes in that can be used outside of operations does get used to give, to give others. The entire organization is philanthropic by nature. And I want it to remain that way.
Are you guys technically a nonprofit?
Well, we have 2 nonprofit arms.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So the LLC itself is for profit, but we have the 2 nonprofit arms that we can funnel money through and to give back. So, I mean, everything there is a give. On the personal side, that was not true. I live on a farm. My wife runs the farm. And my kids help run the farm. I just have to lift things every once in a while, or chop things, or saw things, or kill things, or, that's my role in it. But even with that, we're taking food and providing food to local restaurants. And, I want our entire life to be a give back, really. So depending on how we're defining that, yeah, I think everything we do is that.
Cool. What's one of the biggest personal challenges you might have had to overcome on this journey?
Biggest personal challenge is it's always has to do with people, because we are doing all of this in a context of, man, we believe in humans and we want them to believe in themselves. I have had to come to grips with, sometimes you believe in somebody so much and you want so many good things for them, and they will decide that they do not want it for themselves. And that is hard. That's heartbreaking. And I took it personal for a very long time. I've just come to realize it's kind of the nature of humanity in some ways. And so one of the biggest struggles for me is not taking things personally. When it comes to that,
when you see like some self-sabotage or somebody just,
yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep. It's hard, 100% it's hard. And I don't mean that in terms of like, I had the answers and they didn't listen to my answers, and I'm not arrogant enough to believe that that's the case ever, that's who I am. It's just when there is a roadmap presented, when it's like, okay, what are the problems? These are the problems. Great. Here we go. Here's what the best people on the planet say, and let me walk alongside you. And they eventually go, I just don't want to do it anymore. And you're like, okay, got it. And then they come back to you and go, but I'm still miserable. And you're like, oh my gosh, okay, I don't know what to do now, because you won't, just take one step. Like, that's hard.
Yeah.
When you take that personally, for sure. And that's, you see that with young people on campuses. You see it with their parents. You see it with the men and the women's pro. We see it a lot.
So from my perspective, after a short conversation, your landing is, curious, hardworking, passionate, clearly intelligent. What would you attribute some of the success that you've had to?
First of all, thank you. That was very, very nice. The biggest amount of it is kind of a sick obsession. I think is a huge. Some people go, it's a calling. Okay, maybe, and also it's a sick obsession with having to try to make the world a better place. And I've got a sick obsession with trying to get things as close to perfect as possible, because I know I would never, nor any human would ever get close to perfect. So I think it's that obsession piece. And then it's thankfully, I think as I've gotten, it's that age old thing of, as I continue to get older, I see just how unimportant I am. How people say you're the best thing in the world, and you're not even close. People say you're an idiot and you're not even close. You're just kind of in the middle there. And I've come to accept that more and really lean into that. And that's just brought a whole lot more peace. And I think the more peace of mind you have on things like that too, and the more you're able to just serve and not have any expectation.
That seems very stoic.
That's an attempt to be,
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's an attempt to have that. More importantly, it's an attempt to feel that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't pretend like I have that perfectly, because there are still some days where I'm like, what? That's okay.
Right.
And you're good, but I'm hopeful that continues in that trajectory, because we can just keep building that way.
I dig it. That seems like a less painful way to be.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to put it. Yeah, it's less painful. It's not painful. It's less painful.
Yeah. How about failure? I mean, for me, I've clearly had, some pretty epic, even short-lived things where you're like, wow, that was really stupid. Or more long-lived things where I'm like, really? I did that for that long? But they've all taught me things, right? Like the experience is what you get when you didn't get what you expected. Any failures of yours that you have found to be highly instructive, and perhaps a favorite failure?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I can name a number of failures that have always led to. So I like to kind of use the metaphor of dating, right? So many bad relationships, and relationships that went sideways a lot of times because of my own doing. But it made it very clear when I did meet my wife, like, oh yeah, okay. I remember my sister going, that this is never going to work. First time she met my wife.
Perfect.
And she goes, she goes, yeah. She goes, this is never going to work. I said, how come? She goes, look at all the other people you've been dating. Like, look at all my friends that you dated. Look at all these other, look at all them. They're nothing like her. And I'm like, and none of those worked out. That's why I think this one will. Right. Like, that's the point. And so I think from a million different places, like about public speaking, which again, that's how I took care of my family predominantly. I try not to take anything from the education side that I don't have to cover any bills. And so many bombs, on stage, just bombing in front of thousands of people. I remember losing my train of thought in San Diego for, it was like 1,500 people. And it wasn't the biggest crowd by any stretch that I'd ever been in front of. But for whatever reason, I just wasn't feeling good. I remember getting super dizzy on stage. And there was just a period of time where I just blacked out. Standing in front of all these people who'd paid a lot of money for me to be there, and that just informed how I traveled from there on out and what preparation looked like from there on out. Same thing on the business side. I launched a campus, but we lost a lot of families early on because I didn't understand the balance of bringing the parents along and the difference between bringing the parents along and giving them carte blanche. And so I would swing the pendulum too far both ways. And both times of like, nope, this is my place versus, yeah, whatever you think. Like both times we lost families. And so I got better as I opened campus number 2 at going, here are the boundaries, here's the mission, and here's how we can all play within the boundaries, myself included. And so that first campus luckily still ended up thriving and being a success ultimately, but it went through iterations where I'm like, ooh, are we gonna survive this? And so that's probably my favorite failure because that, and I would say that's 2 failures because we had 2 big exodus moments. But that really helped inform how to do it well. That campus is still thriving. Again, it turned into campus 2, campus 3, and now getting to help, hundreds.
Right on. Who's helped you along the way? Like who's been a real instrumental, I don't know if Seth Godin is or not. You mentioned his name, but I know he's got some similar philosophies around changing the educational paradigm. But I wonder who you might have run into along the way that has been transformative or kind of really elevated for you to, from where you were to where you are.
Yeah, Seth has been, Seth is great. He's not somebody I speak to regularly, but every time I've reached out, he's had some words of wisdom to share. So he's been great. I've leaned into a lot of the guys that have helped me along the way. I don't even know personally. Naval Ravikant, again, somebody I mentioned earlier, he's helped me a ton. I don't know him personally. I've never met him personally. I've got the cliche answer of talking about the fact that my wife has held down, I think we're married 16 years, together 19. This is house number 9 or 10 for us. And second state. And so she's, now we're running a farm. Like she holds things down no matter what I've got going on. There were times where I was at 200 flights a year, doing 70 keynotes around the country while building campuses when I was home. And so she really has held things together and held things down for us in a way that none of this would be possible if she had not. So from a real true practical standpoint, she's the number one. But the way we've built this out with our mentors and our mentorship programs, I get poured into every single week. So the more I'm giving back to our community by running these mentor calls, I'm getting the wisdom from good humans every week, multiple times a week. That has helped sustain me as much as anything else. It really has, because I can find the wisdom I need when I need it from the person I need it to, and then I can go on to the next.
A virtuous feedback loop, right? You get what you give.
Very much so. In my experience, you get more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool.
Feel selfish, really, but you get more.
Managing success, right? So let's go back to the early days, and you're bouncing at a bar, and you're doing whatever you can to work hard and get through and make ends meet. And then at some point, there's an inflection, and there, I think it was Tim Ferriss who had this analogy of like when you're early in your career, you're out on an island and you've got a bunch of the glass bottles and you're putting messages in and you're sending them all out. And then one day, like a bottle comes back, and then later on, like there's so many bottles washing up on the shore that you can't even address them all, which is like success. And I'm wondering how things have changed for you and how you manage, like you just said you're working 7 days a week, but I can imagine there's other aspects of that. How do you deal with, how do you respond to either tactically or emotionally, like this change from, young guy who's a bar bouncer to what's happening now?
Yeah. And that's, I like the way you framed it as far as tactically and emotionally. Because it's definitely both of those, from a tactical standpoint. And we walk our men and women through this kind of this lead concept, LEAD, of what's life or death, like what is only you can do, and it has to be done during the day. What can you eliminate out of your schedule altogether? What can you automate? What can you delegate? We kind of take a look at that. So I'm continuously revising that. I'm definitely in that phase of where I'll kind of walk through that. I'll gain my time back, and then I'm going, okay, well, what is the next thing I want to build? And then I'll get myself to the point where it's, again, 200 text messages and 300 emails and 100 DMs and that's back. Okay, cool. I need to reassess and go, okay, what is the life or death? What can I eliminate altogether? What can I automate? What can I delegate? So I'm definitely at that kind of tipping point now, where some of my meetings earlier today were around assigning more roles to more people that are ready and willing to help, so they can take a lot of that time off a lot of that off my plate, and I can earn my time back from a tactical standpoint, because I can't get back. It's impossible to get back to everybody as much as I want to get back to everybody on things. So I need to make sure there's other people that can take that for me.
And what about the emotional part of either, however that lands for you? And then, go. I've got to go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the emotional part is the biggest part, is knowing, I gotta have an element of self-awareness, knowing how do I feel good, and how do I transition from work, Matt, which again, all of these are, everything is, the buzzword is authentic, right? Everything's a real Matt. But again, you and I, even if become good friends, we're not going to have the same relationship as I have with my wife. And because that would be weird. And so I've got to show up as a different Matt. And then when I go with my kids, I show up as a different version of Matt. And by the way, it's slightly different with all three of my kids, because they each need a little bit of a different thing, especially the difference between girls and boys. And then, the men that I help mentor, they need me to show up as a different version of Matt. All of these are Matt, but they're all a different version. So how quickly can I transition from one version to another and still maintain energy? Like, that's kind of the way I look at it. And if I'm losing energy, I either need to fix something with my schedule or take something off my plate. And so I'm consistently self-assessing that way, just to make sure I wake up every day pumped, go to bed every day spent, and it's efficient in between.
That's cool. No, my question was nowhere near as beautiful as what you're talking about. It's just more the emotional part of letting go, right? Like, you're going, okay, like I've got another level of busyness in my life, and I've got to delegate this to some other people, and have to trust that they've got the aptitude and skills and sort of wisdom to do this properly. And if not, then maybe they'll come back to me and say, hey, I've got a challenge here. Could you help me with this?
Yes, that's definitely been a process over time. That trust thing is hard until you realize that there was so much wisdom in all the people who came before you, who were like, hey, make sure you are working with people who are smarter than you. And then once you actually go, that's a good thing, I don't have to be the quote unquote boss that knows no, I want people who are so much smarter and better than me, that I can just help work. I work for them and just hopefully give them some inspiration along the way. That makes life a lot easier, because then people that are taking things on, well, it just made it better. So then I can release that easily, right? It made it better. I'm not as good as them at that. Cool. Great. Hey.
Yeah. I saw a visual a long time ago. It was an entrepreneurship class, and the guy put up an anchor on one side of the PowerPoint slide and a sail on the other side. And he's like, these are your employees. Figure out which is which.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yep, nailed it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it, man.
Yeah. All right. So routines, like you just sort of said, hey, I'm waking up refreshed, I'm going to bed spent. What might you do to sharpen the saw or quiet your mind? And do you have anything that you do? You've been using the word religiously. I'm using it slightly different here. Religiously, to kind of cultivate your own state of mind or well-being.
Yeah, it's consistency is always the thing in our household. So we all go to bed at the same time and get up every day at the same time, 7 days a week. Everybody in our family, and people's like, well, what about the weekends? Do you guys? Nope, same. Literally the same. Like, we don't change anything. Now, part of that, there's a benefit of living on a farm, and there's certain things that have to get done at certain times and certain seasons, and you can't skip it, because otherwise, things like animals tend to die.
Right.
Right. So there's some of that is inherently just built in because of what we've chosen, but that consistency matters. So same time to bed, same time up. Because when I get up, I will go really straight to work and that's kind of my quiet time. I'll go straight to the things that I can handle in the morning while I'm getting myself warm, walking on the walking treadmill, waking myself up, getting, caught up on communication, all that kind of stuff. If I can knock those things out, those first couple hours in the morning, then I'm able to tackle the priorities. I prioritize my schedule is quite literally down to the minute, scheduled in 30-minute, hour and a half blocks. But I'll have it prioritized too. This is number 1, 2, and 3. I don't prioritize past that. If I get more than that done, awesome. I almost always do. But if something happens like lightning strikes and it drops a freaking tree on my property, and I got to go saw it off the fence, well, cool. I can go do that because I know I got number 1 done. And so I'll kind of prioritize that way. But we pre-fill schedules, all throughout the week, with my entire family. It's not just me for me, it's the entire family. So I know what everybody's doing when they're doing it. They know what I'm doing when I'm doing it. They know when we're doing all these things together. We've got intentional time together in there. The schedule is almost overly business and neurotic, but man, that is the only thing that gives us freedom and peace of mind. So I wish it was sexier than that, but that's the reality of it.
That's cool. And then as far as just growth, I mean, you're obviously in a growth mode. You are expressing yourself into the world and having your way with it, which is beautiful. But are there any inputs that you try to drive to yourself in terms of perhaps reading or what is it that you do to feed it in?
I appreciate that because our overall goal, the overall, yes, I want Apogee to be global. I want that to be a household name. I have all of those, but I do not want. There is no part of me that needs to be the guy. I don't need anybody to know who I am outside of the people that I live with here. These 4 humans that I live with, like that's it. And so everything is geared towards making everybody know what Apogee is and nobody knowing who I am. Like that's the whole thing. So I have that mindset already, but the personal side of that, we had our year 1 guy, our Apogee man, it's a 12-month program. And so I went through all of year 1 with our very first class of guys. I was also, I was leading them, but I was also doing all the projects, all the challenges, all the readings that they were doing. This year, as of January 1st, 2024, we had built out our 2nd year for Apogee Man at the request of a lot of our men. So currently, while doing all this, my personal growth is really rooted in going through all of year 2 with those guys. So I'm in those projects, new projects and challenges every month, new readings every month. I'm a voracious reader and we'll read at least a book a week. So that is, and then hobby reading is translating Dead Sea Scrolls to the best of my ability when I have the ability to do that on the weekend.
Wow. That's interesting. That doesn't seem like it'd be easy.
It is not, sir. I am a good decade into it and still awful at it.
Wow. End of the day, what makes you feel relief? How do you kick up your feet and take a breath? It doesn't sound like you do that frequently, but when you do, what's that look like?
Yeah, we don't do it super frequently, but it is, as weird as this sounds, it's the evening chores, man, with my family. It's the evening, like we will always, I have meals with them. Every meal I will have with my family, unless there's a meeting that gets scheduled over the top, which is rare. I'll have those meals. So I get those 3 resets. And then the family chores at night, we all go outside together, whether it's raining, pouring, or beautiful in sunshine. And it doesn't matter. Like we're out there working together, but that is my reset. That's my time where nobody, even though there's things we are doing and there's chores and there's physical labor, it is the mental reset because I don't have somebody saying they need something that sounds like work to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's, that's it.
You're just outside doing your task.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yep. And that is the biggest mental reset for sure. And then, we'll come back in and I've got at least an hour. If I can build in more during the day, I do, but I got at least an hour to hang out with the kids on whatever they want to do, games, whatever. And then an hour with that last hour of the night is always with my wife, no matter what. So
very nice. So look, if I go back to your sort of, hey, I'm just out of college and now what do I do? That experience is not a whole lot unlike my experience of being like, okay, I'm a dad. I have a wife. I have a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I've got to make decisions about how to put them in a place where I believe they can be successful and well educated. And thank you for taking the time to do this with me. But for all the other people who might be in my shoes and looking at the public school system with a bit of skepticism, and then looking at Apogee and going, just to put, as my friend says, put the turd on the table, who the hell are these guys? Like, what would you recommend for them other than listening to something like this to kind of diligence and like figure out, like, does the shoe fit? Like, am I in on, is this something that's calling to me or something that's pushing me away?
I love that, man. That's a great question. Look, we're not going to be a fit for everybody because not everybody's there's going to be people that love their local public. That's great, man. I'm not in the business of trying to convince anybody. What I will ask people to do, if they are interested in us, I think the website does a decent job. I think the documentary does a decent job. We're not hard to find on podcasts and shows. And I mean, we're not hard to find as far as like who we are, what we believe, how we show up. Tim and I are not hard to find. Tim, especially, not hard to find. But I would say the better question is the thing you think forget us, the thing you think you know, being schools, because you went to school. That's what's kind of funny is all of us went to school, so we all think we know everything about it. And how go dive into why it looks the way it does. Go dive in, no matter what you are thinking. I'm thinking homeschool. I'm thinking Apogee. I'm thinking, Acton Academy. I'm thinking Montessori. I'm thinking, this private school down the road. I'm thinking my government school is great. Go dive into the history of why we've done school the way we've done it. Start there. John Taylor Gatto is always my go-to recommendation. He was a brilliant human being, passed a few years back, was former New York State Teacher of the Year, foremost historian on the history of schools. Go read Dumbing Us Down. Go read Weapons of Mass Instruction. Go read Secret History, Underground History of American Schooling. Go read anything and everything that you can find that he wrote. And then you'll actually have, I think, the proper lenses to look through to make a decision that makes more sense for your family. Because it's hard to make a decision when the things you're choosing between, you don't really know what the definition is of them.
You haven't made the distinctions yet.
That's right. Yeah. So I say start there, because the thing you think you know the most is probably going to be government schools. And I almost guarantee it's the thing you know the least.
Right on. Well, I very much appreciate you taking this time, Matt. The floor is yours for any sort of closing thought or comment. And I know you're super busy and I appreciate it. Thank you.
No, I mean, I appreciate it. And I get the honor of coming on a handful of shows, usually every week. And I want to say publicly, you do a really good job. You do a really good job because you ask really good, insightful, and important questions that show a lot of thought. And that in of itself, I want listeners to take away, the quality of your life really having something to do with the quality of questions you're willing to ask, not just others, but the quality of questions you're willing to ask yourself. If you're really willing to ask yourself hard questions and then question those questions and dive into your beliefs, that's what critical thinking actually is. So I encourage more people to do that. You do a great job of it, Kevin. And if anybody wants to know anything more about us, man, we're easy to find. ApogeeStrong.com is the first place to go. Check out the documentary if you feel so inclined. It's about an hour long. I'm not hard to find most places, just at my name, most platforms or podcasts or whatever you want to check out. And Tim's the same. So any way I can help, just say the word.
Tim Kennedy is your partner.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
correct.
All right. Well, and thanks to all the listeners. Those who have been listening for a while, you're going to know this. This podcast is called Offshoot for a reason. So we're taking a different tack with Matt. And Matt, thank you again. I very much appreciate the time.
Honor's my own, brother.
All right. Take care.